So
Yes.
help me understand this for a second. If I'm Joe employee, right, just work for some company, I get paid in US dollars.
Yep.
Right? But I want to take advantage of Bitcoin and use it as currency because I travel around and it's being accepted, blah, blah, blah. How is that an advantage if I have to make that conversion from dollars to Bitcoin if if Bitcoin is going up in price? So if I'm getting paid in dollars, I get paid $100, whatever.
It's like $100 worth.
No, but if I take a taxi ride and it costs me, half a Bitcoin or whatever today, and now it's going to cost me a full Bitcoin tomorrow, I have to replace that Bitcoin now at a much higher price. I guess I'm just trying to rationalize. I understand if I want to invest in it and take the risk and roll the dice, it's going to get more and I'm going to cash out at some point. I get that. But if I want to use it as a currency, ultimately, unless I get paid in Bitcoin as an employee, I still have to make that conversion. And I'm not seeing where.
Well, even if you get paid in the Bitcoin and it's so volatile, you were a lot richer the day you got it, because what goes up comes down.
Right?
That's correct.
But I'm not getting paid in Bitcoin. I'm getting paid in dollars, right? Today, maybe tomorrow, who knows?
Right, yeah.
So I'm still not. Maybe I don't want to drag
No,
the
go
conversation down
ahead.
here,
Yeah,
but
you
I'm just
have
not
to
getting
go.
that connection. Why?
That's fine. Yeah.
Why that's a benefit?
Sure.
Well, that's the reason of the supposedly false inflation story is that idea that you say because our dollar is still useless and just continue going. So ideally is that you put money into Bitcoin, and as it grows, you put aside initial stake, and then you continue growing whatever that piece in there, and you use that growth. Continue feeding. You could. That's the initial way does. So there's many ways to do it, but there's also ways to you can do Bitcoin credit cards. So your rewards would be in the Bitcoin, like Gemini. So it's
Coinbase just started one too.
So there's a lot of other ways to get paid by Bitcoin.
Well, maybe I just need to kind of.
So with that, and if I can wrap that, no, this is not whatever you guys want to talk about and ask. So with that, what he's explaining is, you can do all that. You're just accumulating Bitcoin at this point. Right now, the stage of Bitcoin we're in is just investment and accumulation. That's all it is. And so 2 parts to your answer. That would be the hope eventually. Let's say that more people adopt, more countries continue to adopt, then that becomes more a reserve currency. And that's where we're essentially hypothetically headed towards, right? So that's future state. Secondly, if you're traveling around a lot and you're in countries that accept Bitcoin, much easier to transact in Bitcoin than, let's say, El Salvador is a perfect example. I could have done dollars technically, but Bitcoin was much faster. It transacts much faster and is cheaper. That's the biggest thing. So that's what you can do right now in certain countries. But future state would be, everyone gets paid in Bitcoin, and then your volatility has decreased at that point because it has become more of a reserve currency for most places in the world.
And the Argentina example is perfect because, why would you want to even own that currency when it just gets devalued every day? But I think the simple answer is that we're not there yet. I just don't think the industry as a whole, the understanding, the education is just not.
What do you think about it, to be honest with you, was your story about traveling to El Salvador and paying for a taxi ride, whatever it was. Bitcoin. Ultimately, if you want to maintain the quantity of Bitcoin, you have to replace that somehow.
Sure.
We all get paid in dollars, so
sure.
I'd always be going through that calculation of what the conversion.
But it's the same with any exchange rate. If you're going to another country, you'd be dealing with going from dollars to euros.
It's going up 40%. High inflation.
Well, there's the concept of diminishing returns, I guess, which is sort of as we go through this process with Bitcoin, it's in one cycle you're going to see it go up 1,000%, and then every cycle, if you kind of look at it, it gets smaller and smaller and smaller. So I feel like eventually, and I don't know for sure, but it seems like eventually we'll get to a point where it's not quite as volatile. It stabilizes a little more as a currency. And then maybe there's a better use case for it. I think there's not it's not much more than a store of value at the moment.
Correct. Yeah.
But some countries that have horrible economies or bad inflation or
Right.
devaluing their currencies, it makes sense.
Let's take that to the other extreme, right? So there's a finite amount, and I heard the whole thing, fractionally goes up, but still you have to look at the thing in the aggregate. What drives currency values is supply and demand.
Yep.
Right?
Right.
And so if you have more transactions that are happening, more and more, there's more and more demand. Is that logical? More and more people taking taxi rides,
Sure.
they're finally getting on, the next 100,000 people, and the next 100,000 people, and the next 100,000 people.
Right.
It's gonna be a long time before it's there.
El Salvador is like the first country that's kind of like bought into it and like they're actively exchanging.
That's on microcosm, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right?
Definitely.
If you look at this on a worldwide, 7, 8 billion, whatever number of people we are these days, right? That could really go quite a bit where you're taking, would you say, 21 million Bitcoins, right? I mean, it's
So
volatile for a while.
Yeah.
It's trending up.
Because you can't produce any more to keep it stable. It's like always going to be, as it goes wider, it's going to go.
We're still in kind of price discovery phase for decades until it.
For a while, we'll be here. I don't think it's actually something that most people in the world will exchange or buy products with for years down the road. Now, what will be interesting is in 2148, when we're all not around to see it, what are they doing at that point? Because then only like the select few people have Bitcoin at that point, and then who knows what it's going to become then? I don't know.
that's fair. So
Anybody has good genes and lives that long.
We're quite happy. I got it. No, I'll say, so think about the current transactions that exist globally with all currencies. It's like trillions per day. And if you look at the fractional and basis the 21 billion, it is like 21 trillion. There's enough right now to exchange whatever the current currency that exists. And like Ron said, it's possible to change it from 100 trillion to something else. So it's possible to go to lower function. So we don't really have an issue with that. And the change of the supply and demand is just like how the Fed decides to print more money, there's a possibility to change that. Same economics does apply to this. The important piece is like you said, countries are changing and deciding to use that. But the big countries, Russia, US, China, and XYZ, they have a big bulk of holding of Bitcoins. And so whenever us buying some Bitcoins, we investing it in 2016, 15, whatever it was, is meaningless. Because the government still owns the majority of this. So that's why I think it is stable, because the governments have strong stake in it, right? In this particular piece.
In a way, you can think of it as digitized gold.
Yeah.
Because gold is, you can spend gold in any country in the world. It's currency. And you have to mine gold. Now, it's not limited, because you got to keep on mining it. And gold's been around for 2,000 years. So I kind of look at it like that.
It absolutely is.
Like, we do this.
It absolutely is digital gold. And then with that, I just want to say, so actually, I think the stat line is about wallets that own 1 Bitcoin or less is around 93% around the world. Now, who's owning it and whatnot, I can't really give you that breakdown, but the thing is it's decentralized. So 1 Bitcoin or less, I mean, if you have anybody higher than that, they're pretty good off. But as far as governments go, yeah. So there's a stat line I saw. U.S. government owns around 200,000 Bitcoin right now. And so they want to increase that. Obviously, Trump wants to increase that, get to 1 million. China, ironically, they have banned Bitcoin. They have banned Bitcoin miners, yet they still own 200,000. So I don't know. They're
That's
doing
the interesting thing about it.
Yeah.
There's like,
Some
all
also
countries
that-
have their
exactly.
currency and their laws with it. The laws will change on a country to country basis. So, what might work here is not going to work in
Yeah.
China. And, so there's
Exactly.
that to work through too.
And yes, go ahead.
I just want to switch gears a little bit.
used to be more interested a couple years ago, and like there was talk of the Lightning Network, like Bitcoin Cash and all that. Like, I guess what are the scalability concerns? It's not like Visa or whatever can turn on.
It is not.
They
It's
handle,
not
I
like
know,
Visa.
millions per second, whatever. So
Yeah, that's an excellent question. So as more miners and more nodes come online, the scalability would increase. So it's a very arduous and slow process at this point, which in my opinion needs to be. Because if you're creating an entire new financial structure, it needs to be meticulous. Like you have certain, let's talk about Ethereum for a second. Okay, so Ethereum is the second leading Bitcoin cryptocurrency, pretty good smart contracts and whatnot. However, because they scaled, in my opinion at least, because they scaled a little too quickly, they had a lot of security attacks, security network issues. If I'm investing my money, if that's my money, I don't want any security issues. Like, why on earth would I want that? Do I think Ethereum is bad for the entire crypto system? Absolutely not. They have done a lot. Stable coins like USDT, USDC are on the Ethereum network. So modern day banks would be getting into Ethereum if they decide to implement this. So circling back to answer your question, right now, if all 8 billion people went to Bitcoin and were transacting in Bitcoin, your transactions would take forever. However, as the number of nodes grow, miners grow, and then also adopters grow, it will scale to that point, hypothetically. So,
is there any like work being done to incentivize more nodes? I know like mining's pretty expensive, right? Like you have to have
you have to have a rig,
GPU or
like an ASIC rig.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to be quite frank with you, I mean, mining is incentivized. Just right now, the reward is 3 Bitcoin. So you're making around 330,000 if you mine that block. So that's the biggest incentive. Nodes don't have an incentive except for the love of the game. And so you have even developers. There's no incentive, and there's thousands of developers. There's thousands of nodes, like the computers that are running just for people to do it. So if people are running just for the sake of running it, then I mean, I don't want to say you have a perfect solution, but it's a pretty good solution at this point. But yeah, sorry. Go ahead.
Last question. Sorry.
No,
So like the non-mining nodes, I guess what is like, is that something you can run on a phone? What are the hardware requirements for that?
It's just a normal computer like that.
You need a lot of them, right?
Sorry?
You need a lot of them to mine.
Well, that's a mining node. So that's a specialized computer, like an ASIC rig, like a GPU, and you have like rigs just set up of companies setting up like GPUs and whatnot. The full regular node, just a normal computer.
So I actually want to know what your opinion is. Ethereum, for example. So I decided to add more stakes right before Trump got elected, because knowing what's going to be the next 6 months.
Sorry, added what stakes?
Into Ethereum.
Okay.
And it crashed so terribly in the last 8 months. But the reason it crashed, not because the quality of what that coin has been, because it did pretty well the game before that. Because it's coming out from being a coin to be more conceptual using contracts out of pieces. It's more like what it was sold to be initially. And so you think it actually would come back to be a coin again, to be a value, or it's going to disappear over time?
Yeah, I mean, in the short-term future, it definitely cannot. Because if a lot of modern day banking, if let's say, so as far as like banks that are looking into stable coins and basically running something on the Ethereum network, you're looking at banks like Goldman Sachs or investment companies, Goldman Sachs, Bank of America, Citibank. I'm like forgetting a couple, but those are big players, right? So at this point, if it does crash, that would take down a lot of banks, and that would not be good. Let's say that they implement it. So yeah, I don't think so. I think Ethereum will just keep going at this point. And then what I was saying about the security stuff, that was like years ago, obviously. And I know you're right, the price did correct these past couple of months. But I'm assuming you hold a lot of Ethereum. You have some Ethereum.
I know you get 1,000 Ethereum for 1 Bitcoin.
Okay.
What it came out to be.
Okay.
So get 1 Bitcoin, so you can get 1,000 stake and stuff.
Okay.
But I'd say that my peers are all of them, get out.
Get out, they're saying get out of Ethereum?
Don't stay, everybody.
No,
Listening,
I mean,
and, I'm interested to hear other opinions.
yeah, and that's fair. Look, I'm sure as you can tell by this entire presentation, I'm mostly Bitcoin. Go figure. However, I do have some Ethereum. Ethereum has a lot of utility. I mean, my biggest thing is like security. I don't want my network to be hacked, right? That's fine. I can get past that because the thing is with Ethereum, smart contracts. Now on layer 2, explaining layer 1, layer 2 real quick. Layer 1 for Bitcoin is essentially like all the security coding that goes into it, and the layer 2 is essentially, all right, like we have the security good, now we're going to build on top, such as someone's had lightning nodes, I believe it was yourself, yeah. So lightning nodes or a lightning network is built on layer 2, right? On layer 2 is also Bitcoin smart contracts as well. You have certain things such as stacks, which is another protocol, and they're saying, hey, like if you want to build Bitcoin smart contracts, you can with us. But that was influenced by Ethereum for sure. It had to have been. So Ethereum definitely has their own purpose within this ecosystem, especially with this legislation that probably will be passed eventually. I mean, banks are going to be either in USDC or USDT. So those are stable coins pegged to the US dollar, and those are all on the Ethereum network. So yeah, I believe Ethereum will stay around. Yeah, the price is going to go up and down, but this week is called Crypto Week because of the legislation. Price already surpassed, I mean, percentage-wise, it already surpassed Bitcoin. So, no, if you have Ethereum, you probably won't buy more, but I think it's still a good investment.
Are you able to talk towards the difference between proof of work and proof of stake?
Yes. So, a little bit.
I don't want to throw you off.
No,
Derail from where.
No, this is fine. I'm just gonna finish up real quick, but I'll answer that real
Come
quick.
back to it.
So proof of work is essentially what we talked about with mining verification. So miners verify transactions essentially. That's your entire like proof of work concept. Like simplicity wise, you have to use a lot of energy to verify, hey, this is a legitimate transaction. Proof of stake, I have limited knowledge of that. It is not energy intensive. Ethereum actually used to be proof of work, and then all the coins, switched over to proof of stake, and essentially you have more power in the network depending on how much of those coins you own, essentially.
It's significantly less energy to
Yeah, you're not running like rigs or anything like that. Yeah, so.